Hey everyone, it's Jack here again, and today we're going to be doing a review of my latest ultralight backpack, the ULA Circuit. Now, the ULA Circuit I've had a chance to take on a couple trails lately. Most recently, I did the Trans Catalina Trail with a couple of friends of mine, and this pack held up great. And so I'm just going to tell you guys about some features of the pack, things that I like about it a lot, maybe some things that I don't like about it as much, and then just some more tips and tricks for you guys so you can be better informed if this is a pack that you're interested in looking at. So without further ado, let's talk about the ULA Circuit. So a couple of the quick technical specs. It's 68 liters, and that includes the main compartment, this front compartment, and then two really generously sized side compartments. It's 41 ounces, and the maximum load for a pack like this, ULA recommends, is 35 pounds. I'm typically rocking anywhere between 25 to 30 pounds, and it's very, very comfortable for me. So that's just something to keep in mind with how you're packing it. Now, while I just have it kind of in this orientation, we can talk about the front pocket. So it's got a really, really big mesh front pocket, and it has a bit of like a fold here and here. So that geometry kind of gives you a little bit more volume when you need it. So it'll kind of fold out. And then if you don't really have as much in there, it'll just fold back in on itself to lay pretty flat. This mesh material is a little bit tougher than like a typical maybe like t-shirt mesh or something would be. It's a pretty heavy duty plastic mesh. And what I typically do is I'll carry Tevas as like my camp shoes, and I will put the Tevas right in front on the bottom here, because that's kind of what gets a little bit more abrasion when you're dropping off the pack on, say, like rocky or dirt ground. And so I'll have the soles of the Tevas out, so that way it kind of lays flat on the front there. As you can see too, it's got shock cord on the outside of this mesh pocket. This is a feature that I didn't really see on a whole lot of other lightweight backpacks, ultralight backpacks too. I've seen some that have like the Lycra mesh, which will stretch and compress with the material because it's already like a pretty like stretchy material. This, because the mesh is just like a loose mesh, the shock cord on the outside allows you to really cinch it down pretty well to make sure everything stays in tight. I've noticed that it also kind of helps seal the top so that nothing is really kind of falling out. And then another thing that I really like about having the shock cord, especially on this outside, is just like how I can slide my camp shoes on the outside. If I have like a really wet dish towel or a wet bandana or a wet shirt, I can put wet things on the outside here to dry. And it's so exposed being on the back of the backpack that it's a lot of sun exposure. And so I kind of use these as like little clothing racks too. The shock cord, it cinches down really well. I'm a big fan of it. It's pretty thick stuff. Yeah, so that's kind of the front pocket. So while we're kind of still around the front, it does have, mine's a little bit of an older model of the ULA Circuit, but the fundamentals of the pack haven't changed still with their new models. So mine has a Velcro ice axe loop at the top for the handle of an ice axe. And then it's got two ice axe loops on the bottom down here that are really nice and generously sized. I'm in Southern California, so I don't really need ice axes ever, but I do hike with a trekking pole, and I use a trekking pole tent. And so I only usually hike with one trekking pole. So these are great to be able to put one trekking pole on the outside of the pack, and that just kind of saves some volume too. It's just as easy to put it on the side if you prefer doing it that way. But I personally like to put my trekking poles on the outside right here, and it's kind of fun. Like, it's got this like ULA, yeah, ULA. These guys are based out of Logan, Utah. And I've actually, one thing that I really love about ULA so far after having this backpack is their customer service is on point. So you can email, I believe I don't want to mess up his name, so I'm not going to call him out on it. But the guy that runs ULA is on top of his game. And if you email them with any questions or concerns, they will take care of you right away, which I think is awesome. So while we're kind of here, also, we'll talk about the roll top feature of the pack. This is just one big single compartment pack, as opposed to with the front and side pockets included. So it has one really long strap on the top, and then this cinches over. It's got a little bit of a triangle that it buckles to, so that gives it a little bit more support. I've had plenty of luck strapping things like bear canisters to the top of this, tents, sleeping pads, anything of the like. It's I've even put like my fleece on the outside up here if I want to just have quick access to it. And then on both sides, I'll buckle it up again just to demonstrate. So on both sides, it has these roll top sides that you can clip on the bottom, and these are on both sides. And so that also allows you to cinch it down on the top to get the top of the pack just a little bit lower, just, you know, tighter to your back. This rolls up nice and big, so, you know, it's just got a lot of volume if you have a lot of extra space up there. Like I mentioned, I have an older model of this backpack, so mine don't clip up here, but all of the new models have a way that you can clip it on the top, sort of like a dry bag style. So if you prefer it that way, that's perfectly fine. I don't mind the fact that I don't have it. Cinching it on the sides works just fine for me, but to each their own. So it has a thinner material on the front, a thinner ripstop, this black, as opposed to this this green ripstop material is, I believe it's unique just to ULA. They're the only ones that use this specific type of material, but it's really abrasion resistant. They have it on the bottom, as you can see. And so that abrasion resistance is really good when you're setting this down on the ground and things like that. And then it's all up on the sides. So anyway, just kind of going back to the main compartment, I believe it's probably like 45 liters right here in the main compartment. And my favorite feature about this compartment is that it actually has a small pocket that attaches to the inside of the pack there. It is detachable if you wanted to take it out and save weight. I personally really love having this easy access. I use this for my wallet, for my keys, maybe a small flashlight, anything that I just need to reach without having to dig all inside the pack. I'm a big fan of this. It also includes on the inside a water bladder sleeve, and it is hydration compatible. They have two ports that the hydration hose can fit through. I don't typically use a hydration bladder on my overnight hiking packs. I'll use my hydration bladder for my day packs, but for those of you that do like to use hydration sleeves, it does have a compartment that you can put it in. I just have my sleeping bag in here right now just to kind of give it the big volume to give you guys an example of what it looks like. So anyway, I just roll it down. You know, it's a nice roll top enclosure. One thing that's cool too is this thinner ripstop on the front. It kind of lets air escape nice and easy, so you can roll it down nice and well, and it doesn't kind of like, I don't know, balloon, and it doesn't let air escape. So like, as you can see, you get a ton of extra webbing for the main compartment. Now, this backpack is not waterproof. It uses this ripstop material, so you will need a pack cover for it. I always keep my pack cover just nice and easy accessible on this front pocket, put it in the side pockets too. But that's an important thing to keep in mind, is that this is not like a Dyneema backpack or X-Pack. This is just good old-fashioned ripstop nylon, so you will need a pack cover, so keep that in mind. It's got two cinching straps on the side. These are identical, so I'll show you this one on this side. You know, these are super strong, nice and fat. You know, they're durable. So now we'll kind of talk about these enormous side pockets. Like these things are gigantic. So obviously I use a smart water bottle. So what I'll do is I'll put this one kind of closer nearby to me on the, just to keep the weight closer to my back. And then I'll put maybe like my trowel over here, my Z seat, or my water purifiers. I'll kind of put in this other exterior mesh. It's got the ripstop on the bottom and then the mesh on the outside. So that's super great. Again, if you've got stuff that's wet, it'll dry out. And then another key feature about these side pockets that I personally, and I know a lot of other people that really like about the Circuit, is that it has a cinch on the side pocket too. And it has that on both sides, so you can really make sure that everything's staying in there nice and tight. Big fan of that. I always, you know, when it's in storage, I'll uncinch it as best that I can, just not to wear it out. But these side pockets are huge. You can really stuff a lot of stuff in there. One thing to keep in mind about these side pockets, however, an interesting orientation about the ULA pack is that they have the shoulder straps go through the water bottle pockets on the side. And so it creates, there's like a gap right there. So if you have any like small pieces of gear, I wouldn't recommend putting them in the side pockets because it's liable to maybe fall out. And I believe they just have this orientation with the shoulder straps just to get a better cinch and support. And it's sort of, it carries the load more towards the bottom as opposed to just over here where it's just towards the back. So I'm not exactly sure, but it's just something to keep in mind. While I'm kind of here too, you might be able to see this backpack has a little bit of like a curve here on the bottom. And that's just, again, to better consolidate the weight on your back. So you don't have just like a big heavy anchor on the bottom, a big like blunt bottom. So the way that I'll do this is I'll pack my sleeping bag just in all the crevices down here. And so this is just a unique design in order to keep the weight closer to your back and have less like dead weight on the bottom, which I think is pretty cool. So now we can kind of talk about the back. So I mentioned before that I don't use a hydration bladder. I use this really neat sleeve water bottle holder. I got this from Justin's UL on Etsy. I'll post a link in the description, but Justin got this to me really quick. He sells out of them pretty fast too. So periodically check his Etsy store and see if you can pick one of these up. They're awesome. And then it's got, it's got these little daisy chains that you can clip things onto. I have the top clipped onto this, and then it's got some elastic on the shoulder strap. These are contoured shoulder straps, which is great. So it fits your shoulders really well. It's got load lifters, plenty of extra webbing too. I probably could cut this off, but I don't really mind it that badly. Load lifters are awesome. It doesn't have a whole lot of other daisy chains on the side. It's only got just this one big burly D-ring on each shoulder strap. So if you're somebody that has a lot of stuff kind of hanging out on your shoulders, there's not a whole lot of places to put stuff on the shoulders of these packs. It's got a good burly handle. That's great. And the sternum strap is pretty comfortable. I think I'm going to score an aftermarket sternum strap that's got suspension in the middle, like one of those elastic doodads. But I don't know. In the meantime, this one's been fine. I don't have a lot of complaints on the sternum strap at all, but it's nice thick webbing, so that's pretty cool. This is just a thermometer that I have on there personally. But yeah, they're really comfortable. It's got nice, breathable mesh. The mesh back is just really just like a good, comfortable, it's not like super thick, but it's not super thin, cushy mesh back. It's got one single aluminum stay that goes in the back for the frame, and then it also has a lightweight carbon fiber frame that goes around the outside just to help give it some shape. If you're really getting into the weeds, you can take those out if you want to. I leave them in. I don't really mind the weight at all. I like the way that it helps distribute the weight on my back. But that's up to your discretion. If you really want to shave off those ounces, you can take off those pockets, you can take out the stay, but just keep in mind, if you are going to take out these structural supports in the backpack, make sure that your weight inside your pack is compensating for that too. Once you remove those, the weight limit that you can carry in this is significantly less than if you had those supports in there. And it does you good favors keeping those in there because it helps channel the weight back towards your hips onto your nice strong leg muscles. So just keep that in mind. But it is kind of cool how it's modular. It's not just stuck in there. And maybe as you're shaving down more and more weight in your pack, you can get rid of those. Who knows? Talk about the hip belt. Hip belts are phenomenal. So these hip belt pockets are enormous. They are black holes. I've got a big iPhone and I can fit these in there with a map, compass, lip balm, small little knife, whole 9 yards, hand sanitizer, whatever, all in there. And then I can have I can fit probably 8 RX bars in there, or 8 Cliff bars, 10 Lara bars. The amount of snacks that you can fit in these are awesome. One thing that I will mention though is that this is just ripstop nylon. It's not waterproof. And I don't know about you, but the pack cover for my backpack only covers the back, not the front. So if it does start to rain, keep that in mind that you don't want to have paper or a cell phone that's not waterproof or in a waterproof case in these pockets because they will get soaked. So that's just something to keep in mind. Before I get onto the main belt buckle, I want to make sure that I cover that it does have these back cinches too for the back of the hip belt. That just really helps get it tightened back up onto your back from the your lower back to your hips. So that's huge. And then just while we're talking about the hip belt, this hip belt is super sick. And I'll tell you why. It's got, and I'll do a zoom in while I'm talking about this, but it has it's like a 4-point cinch system. So it's got one buckle in the middle, but then it has 2 cinches on one side and 2 cinches on the other side, on the top and the bottom. And what I found is that you can really, really dial in how this thing rides on your hips with those 4 different points. Sort of the way that I like to think about it is the top ones, the ones that are more near your torso, you can do really tight to kind of give a little bit of a taper, sort of just around the hips on the outside. And then the bottom ones you can do to really, really tighten it in onto the lower part of your hip. As opposed to just sort of being a big flat thing, you have this 4-dimensional hip belt, which I'm a big fan of. It's also adjustable. It's got a Velcro adjusting down here in the bottom of the hip belt through this pass-through. I'm not going to adjust it right now because I've got it really dialed into the way that I like it. But it should be noted that if you do have a taller or smaller torso, you can adjust it. They do offer these in different sizes. You can order the different sizes of the torso too. I'm just picking out a little piece of down right there. But if it shows up and it's not exactly what you want, fear not, you can adjust it down there. As you can see, this hip belt has got the same super cushy mesh that the back panel does. It's not the most breathable thing on the world, but you're going to be sweating anyway. So I personally sacrificed that breathability factor for a lot of comfort here. But my kind of philosophy is you're going to get a sweaty back regardless, so might as well do it comfortably. So that's really the gist of the circuit, folks. I am a huge fan of the backpack. This is my first venturing into the lightweight backpacking space, and I'm really glad that I picked up this guy because it doesn't really break the bank and it's super, super durable. The customer service is phenomenal. I value that a lot. You spend so much money on gear like this. You don't want to just be kind of left in the dust after you've done the transaction. And the team at ULA is just seriously top notch. They stand behind their products 110%. So big fan of them for that. So anyway, if you have any questions, just shoot me a comment down below. I'll post a couple other links in the description that just might have some more ways that you can see different orientations of the pack and any other information. If you liked what I had to tell you guys today, please shoot me a subscribe. That would be amazing. Thank you so much. And I hope you all enjoy your time on the trail. Catch you guys on the flip.